My question is, what do each of you think is going to be your biggest challenge if you were elected as a state representative?
You finished?
Yeah, sure.
I think right now the biggest challenge is jobs. I think we have thousands of jobs in the St. Louis area that's been lost. Chrysler Corporation, and you can just go on and on and on and name them. Jobs that went out of our country, jobs have been lost because of the downturn in our economy. We need to put people back to work. That's going to be the priority when I get to Jeff City, I can guarantee you. We need to stimulate the economy through whatever job bill that we can muster and get a forum for through small businesses. There are 5 million small businesses here in the United States that have 50 or less employees. And guess what? If you can just stimulate those businesses to hire 3 people, the problem will be solved. So that's what we need to do. And our government is not even talking to small businesses. They're talking to AT&T, they're talking to Merrill Lynch and all of these humongous entities. They're not talking to the small business, and that is the one that's going to create jobs in our economy. That's what we need to focus on.
Well, like Jerry, I think jobs is a paramount problem. Certainly to increase our tax bases, it would be to put getting people back to work is going to change that. But as I see things, the way that what I've read in the last week and a half, I think the budget's going to be the biggest challenge next year. Right now, they just passed their budget, with a 13% reduction in revenue from last year. But 4 days later, I read an article saying that there may be in reality a 19% reduction in revenue in Missouri. And if that's the case, they just passed a budget with a 6% deficit. That's going to fall short. And so I see that as a huge issue next year, and believe that's going to, if that's the case, there's going to be some more pain, but it's going to be an issue that's going to have to be tackled and tackled hard. And I look forward to that.
Thank you, Jim. The way I look at it, there's 3 different areas that we have to look at. First one has been mentioned, the jobs. Without the small business owners employing the majority of the people here in the 97th district and throughout the state of Missouri, we're not going to be putting people back to work. We don't have the big government jobs. We don't have all the big private sector jobs here in St. Louis County. Our biggest employer is the Melville School District. So we've got to turn to the individuals to be creative, start their businesses, go out on a limb. We need the small business loans to help them out. We need to be able to provide some tax breaks to businesses so they can get started. That's going to stimulate the job market. The second thing we need to look at is education. We've got to make sure we continue providing quality education to our youth, or we're doomed in the future. If we don't provide quality public education, we don't provide an alternative to the public education for failing schools like the city of St. Louis, and if we don't provide a supporting mechanism for the folks in the private schools, parochial schools, our future is in trouble. Because if these kids do not get the right tools they need to be successful, learn about the past, the history, that's going to be a downfall. The third thing is also the budget. We've seen over $500 million cut from the budget this year, and by all means they're saying it's going to be over $1 billion we have to cut in next year. It's going to be a big challenge. We've got to continue tightening the belt, cutting the funds that aren't needed. We need to streamline as many programs as we can. But if we do the first thing I indicated, the jobs, give the small business people the opportunity to hire people, that will hopefully snowball and help us get out of this problem of cash flow a little quicker.
I think the biggest challenge that we're going to be facing over the course of the next several years is to control spending, particularly at the federal level, but it also works its way down to the state level. As Chris mentioned, this year they cut almost $500 million from the state budget, and this year we had the opportunity to use stimulus funds that were left over from last year. Next year we're not going to have that opportunity, and they're talking probably another $1 billion in cuts. So we have to learn how to make our government more effective and more efficient. The next thing I agree with the others is that we have to work to get jobs in the state of Missouri, good paying jobs. preferably from the small businesses, because they are the engine that drives the economy, not only in the United States, but all across the country. But so much of the tax structure these days, both at the federal level and the state level, is anti-small business. So working on that tax structure and getting government to control their spending, I think, and obviously deciding on what cuts are going to be made in next year's budgets are going to be the big challenges that we're going to face, whichever one of us goes to Jefferson City next year. Thank you.